Showbiz with Leigh Drew on 97.7 FM.
One last kiss. One last kiss. Oh, one last kiss. Oh, baby, one last kiss. It never felt like this. Oh, baby, like this. You know I need your love. Oh, oh, oh. Give me one last kiss. Give me one last kiss.
I wonder how many people recognise that voice. That was some time ago, and I bet the man on the line is wondering where I got that one from. You'd be surprised what's in the archives, you really would. Issi Dye has been a household name for, well, almost 4 decades, I would say. He's been a regular on Bandstand, Kokomotion. He's been on The Go Show. He's performed thousands and thousands of concerts and shows right around Australia, including a very famous tribute show he had to Al Jolson. He's now a regular at Morning Melodies, and he's coming back to the Cardinia Cultural Centre this week. And he's entertaining once more all of us, and you're all invited next Wednesday to pop along to a great rock and roll show. Issi is on the line right now. Issi Dye, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Lee. Thank you so much, mate. I tell you what, I hate to admit it, but it is over 4 decades.
Yep.
So that's fun.
Well, you like me. You've been there for a long time, and things go around in circles, and they come back all over again, mate. And it's great you can still do it.
That is. Look, I think it's great because a lot of my contemporaries, people like your Russell Morris and of course Normie Rowe and all those guys, they've rekindled their careers. Ross Wilson, in the last 5 or 6 years, 10 years. There's been a resurgence of people looking back to the 60s and 70s, so it's been great for us, and I've been touring all over the country with different shows, and I'm looking forward to coming back to Cardinia Cultural Centre with Mark and everybody down there. It's going to be fantastic. I haven't been there for a year now, and I've got a special show lined up for next Wednesday, and I'd love to tell you about it.
Well, we're going to do that too. I want to go back in your background a little bit first and find out some things about you. That Al Jolson show you did, that was phenomenal. You got rave reviews on that. Didn't you do 500 or 600 performances of that?
Oh, look, we did over 1,000 performances, Lee, but probably the first 10 years of it, I was flat out doing it in the 2000s. We were all over Australia with the Jolson story, but in the last 2 or 3 years, because of the not really wanting to put on the black face anymore, a lot of people are a bit negative on it. So what we've done is we've reinvented the show, and I still do exactly the same program with all the stories and costumes, but now I put on the white face, of course, normal face, and but still the costumes and the style and the I guess the vigor that Al Jolson, because that music, it's still the wonderful Broadway style that will never die, and of course we love all the great songs of the true legend of Broadway, Al Jolson.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me, let's go back a bit in your history. How did you get started into the music industry?
Because when my father was a cantor in Melbourne at one of these synagogues in Toorak, and I used to go along in there, sing in the choir, and when I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years of age, and once the little dancers used to start up, the little jazz and mod dancers. Do you remember?
Yeah, my word.
In the 60s?
Yeah.
Well, I used to pop along and I would sing a couple of Beatles songs, and, someone would say, oh, you know a Beatles song, and you know such and such. And so I would, get up like anyone else. No money, of course, and we would just do it. And then one thing led to another, and I was lucky enough to, probably in the mid to late 60s, I started to perform with bands. And then I joined the crew of Uptight with Rusty Wiley.
That's right.
In the late 60s.
Yeah.
So sort of from then it jumped to the Happening 70 shows on the 10 network with Jeff Phillips and everyone else, Molly Meldrum and everything. So that sort of jumped the career, and I was able then to become, in commas, a solo artist. So I was able to tour Australia doing everyone else's songs, cabaret songs of Joe Cocker and Tom Jones and all that. So it gave me a really good boosting of my, it gave me the longevity that I needed to have a musical career.
What do you see?
Of course, by the mid-1970s, I took over the late-night movies from Hal Todd on Channel 9.
Right, I was going to mention that.
Yeah. So, that now remember that in those days, TV used to finish at midnight. We would go on till 2 or 3 in the morning with both a movie, a little bit of advertising, and I would always have someone in to chat to me. John Michael Howson, Johnny O'Keefe, Normie, whoever would be around at late at night would come in live to Channel 9 in those days at 1 o'clock in the morning, and we could talk about it. So it became known as sort of the precursor to the late night stuff in Melbourne, and I did that for 10 years, and it was a wonderful time. I enjoyed it.
Gee, was it 10 years? It's hard to believe that was that that long. It went so fast, didn't it? Look, I can remember those days, and I would often watch that. It was very, very much what you would call...
a child. You're probably just a child at school.
I wish I was.
That's all right, mate. Well,
I think you and I are the same age.
Well, yeah, 49, again. Now, the thing is that what I found now, whenever I go anywhere, it is amazing how many people say, "Oh, we used to sit up and watch you late at night," and I'm thinking, "Wow, that's amazing," because you don't realise how people remember what your character was like. But fortunately, I've been able to resurrect, because at that stage I was doing much more television, not as much live shows.
Yes.
And then by the time the 90s came in, I resurrected the bands and the live show, and I went back into doing tributes. But I realised then that doing one tribute for an artist like myself was not going to be enough to continue a full-time career. So I was able to put together 3 different, inventions. The first one was a tribute to the crooners, which I really enjoy doing, and I love doing the Dean Martin music. I've always enjoyed that. The other one is the Al Jolson, which you know, but that's more of a specialised theatre show. But the third one is the one we're doing at Cardinia, and I love doing a tribute to the great legend Johnny O'Keefe. And I've worked with the guy, I know his style, and I love all the music that we grew up with in the 60s that O'Keefe sang.
What was O'Keefe like as a person?
Interesting character, very great ego. He would not take no for an answer. He's one of those guys. He would. This is what he was like. He would come in at 1:00 in the morning, take a taxi from Dorset Gardens, which is way out in Croydon. He would come into Channel 9 just to talk about his new record came out or his new show that he was doing. Nothing stood in the way of promoting an O'Keefe situation. But of course, we all know that he was already enjoying the cabaret style of his career. By the time I worked with him in the 70s, he wasn't doing the rock and roll that we knew back in the 60s. But in saying that, he did also reinvent his career and became the cabaret king in the 70s before he passed away in 1978. But to this day, I do love doing the original stuff of O'Keefe, and I find I get a lot of great response from doing the Johnny O'Keefe music.
Well, of course, that's coming up next Wednesday down here at the Cardinia Cultural Centre, called Legends of Rock and Roll. So you're going to be doing O'Keefe. Who else can we expect to see?
Well, I've got 2 other very fantastic entertainers with me. One is a guy called Glenn Douglas, who is truly probably one of the top Roy Orbison artists in Australia.
Right.
He'd be in the top 3 for sure. He's got a beautiful voice, looks and sounds just like Roy Orbison. And then I've got another gentleman we're going to do the Everly Brothers together. We love the Everly Brothers music. You know, the great Everly Brothers harmonies.
Yeah, fabulous.
Probably the great rock and roll twins of all time, or great rock and roll brothers. And I've got Leslie Martin, who lives in Pakenham. She's a local girl. She's coming down to perform her Dolly Parton and Patsy Cline show. So all of us together are going to put together this Legends of Rock and Roll. And we've been to Cardinia separately in the past, and we're looking forward to having it as an all-in-one show next Wednesday morning.
Yeah, well, I saw you there, I think, the last time you were up here, and that must have been, was it August of last year or sometime?
It was even before that, I think. It was before
really?
that. But you know, they've changed their style now. I think Mark's done a wonderful job at the Cardinia with all the great shows that they put on, and they're giving more of the artists a chance to come out there and put on the bigger shows. So ours will now be, rather than just one act, which we used to do, we're now going to put on several artists on the one day. So it really gives everybody great value for money, and also a chance to, sing along with some of their greatest and favourite legends of rock and roll.
I thought you were going to say sing along with Mitch for a moment there.
Oh, yeah, that was... Mitch was more jazzy. We're going to do...
Oh, but he had the black faces, don't forget.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
So, look, remember that when we grew up, and in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, nobody minded the blackface situation.
No.
Now they frown on it because it's not politically correct, and so it should be. But I'm happy to just... I don't like to change history, but I still love the music.
Oh, so do I.
Music will never die. And I'm really looking forward to, as I said, performing with all these lovely artists at the Cardinia next Wednesday.
Well, you've just named some great artists in there. Look, the Everly Brothers, one of my favourites, and I can't wait to hear Roy Orbison and so on.
Look, I worked with the Everly Brothers.
Did you?
They came out in 1979.
Yeah.
And they were not talking to each other. This was an unreal story, Lee. They were not talking to each other. They were in separate hotel rooms. They didn't talk to each other backstage. They came on stage. I had to introduce them. They did the show. It was a fantastic show. Then they went separate ways, and they did make up again about a couple of years later, they made up and then went back to do their great performances at Albert Hall and everything. But it was an unusual falling out of the two great brothers in the 70s, and fortunately they were back together again. But that was an interesting story.
Would have been very, very hard on your part to try and get them together, I suppose. And
Well,
look
I
like
couldn't
they.
talk to them together. I had to talk to them individually.
No.
But the other person, of course, I did. Fortunately, I worked for 2 weeks around Australia with the great Roy Orbison, who came out in the 70s. So that was another very big highlight of my life, working with a person. I could never sing a Roy Orbison music, but that's why I respect Glenn Douglas for doing his. But the Roy Orbison show was just one of them. Every night I would watch Roy from the side of the stage.
Yeah.
I would be in awe of the guy. And, of course, he always performed in A1 performance. And you know how many hits Roy Orbison had. They were legendary. So anyone that loves Roy will certainly love to come along and enjoy Glenn's performance next Wednesday.
Well, Izzy, my wife and I have got tickets. We'll be there on Wednesday. Morning tea's at 10 o'clock. The show's at 11, and it's at the Cardinia Cultural Centre. Mate, always good to catch up with you. You're a lovely guy.
See you next Wednesday, mate.
Yeah.
We'll reminisce about our youthful age, will we?
Will you bring your walking stick, or will I bring mine?
We'll swap walking sticks.
Yes, indeed.
You know, anyone out there that listens to your show that has been to our shows before in the past, please come along and see us. We enjoy what we do. We'll try and make it so that everybody has a bit of fun and a sing along. And really, what we're doing is paying tribute to some great legendary artists and having a good time at the same time. So
that's
come
what
and
it
see
is.
us next Wednesday at Cardinia.
Good on you, pal. We'll talk on Wednesday. In the meantime, thanks for giving up your time today. Bye-bye to you.